I'd like to call this meeting of the Fargo School Board to order. Welcome and good evening all. I'd appreciate Paul?
I move that we approve the agenda as prepared.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Thank you. Correspondence? Anyone? Okay, no correspondence, thank you. Well, in that case, we get to the best part of the evening, our guests. Dr. Gross, would you like to introduce them?
Oh, very much so. Thank you. As you can see on the agenda for tonight's portion about our strategic plan in action and celebrating student success, we have many guests with us this evening. They are from Carlben Eielson, and they are part of the Student Leadership Board, and they are here to share with us some of the activities and some of the things that they are doing. And I'd like to introduce Principal Brad Larson. He is the principal of the building, and he will do the rest of the introductions.
I've got with me, first off, my advisors, and I'm blessed to have three people that have been committed to this position for a number of years, some more than others. But Beth and Alicia have been my advisors for I don't know how many years, and I know every time that they come into my office and close the door with an idea that I have to put my seatbelt on because either it's going somewhere or something big, but they've been very, very successful at leading kids and teaching kids how to be leaders, the future leaders of America. And we now have a number of kids. I think we have over 100 kids that are part of our student leadership. Every student in our building has the ability to be part of student leadership. As I say to fifth grade parents when I meet with them before coming to our school, that every student has the ability to be part of student leadership, but they have to make two commitments. Those two commitments, one of those first being they have to be committed to be a good academic student, passing all their classes. And two, they have to learn to be and commit themselves to be good citizens in our building. In other words, no office referrals, no detentions, things like that. And I've got well over 100 kids that make that commitment and keep that commitment. Very, very seldom do we have to go back to kids and say you can't be on student leadership because of not fulfilling those commitments. So they do a great job, and the leaders have a big part to do with that and in teaching them how to be good leaders. So I'm going to turn it over to our leaders. The first, we've got Mrs. Eckery, Mr. Rudy, and Mrs. Collins. So I'm not sure who will take it first. So.
Thank you, school board, and thank you, Brad. Just a public thank you to Brad that he really does fasten his seatbelt, but then he listens so well, and he is such a supporter for our students and for the activities and things that we do. So I think you'll be encouraged and inspired by great leadership that allows us to do our job well so that we can lead our students. You're going to hear a theme tonight, and I'm going to give it to the students really quickly because they're the heroes and stars of the evening. But the theme is like we're better together. So much of what we do in student leadership is that idea that we can do things independently and on our own, but collectively, and what's the beautiful representation in this room is that we're so much better when we're working together, whether it's disagreeing with each other, coming to a different viewpoint, or just having great dialogue and discussions. And so I hope you see that theme tonight as you hear from our incredible students. My colleague and dear friend, I could not do this without her. She is like, she's the one that gets it all done. I'm the one that like, hey, let's do this. and she's the one, but this is what we have to do to make it happen. And we also wrangled in an awesome guy, Josh Rudy, and so he'll close us off, but I want to introduce Alicia Collins. She's going to set the foundation for what our student leadership group does and what it's about, and then we'll hear from the kids.
Thank you. Thanks again for having us. Just to kind of give a little background, I have been part of student leadership for 11 years with Mrs. Eckery. At that time, over at Agassiz, we had a core group of 27 members. Now we are well over 100. I believe our number is 108 members. We're at about 30 8th graders, 30 7th graders, and 50 6th graders with a 16 member executive board. To apply, the kids have to go through an application process, and just like Brad said, they have to maintain at least a C average and no office referrals. So far this year, we've only had to ask 3 people to step down from student leadership. So out of that 110 kids, only 3 people have not been able to maintain those grades, and usually it's the grades that the incomplete assignments that kind of get to them. But we have grown, and that's why we had to have another member join us, because Beth and I just couldn't do it together alone anymore. But that kind of gives you a background about our kids and kind of how they got to be part of the board. But now I will hand it over to Sarah, and she's going to get it started for us.
Hi, as she said, my name was Sarah, and what we did in October was We Day. And this is a wonderful thing. What we do is that we take about 20 students off to Minneapolis, and then we just listen to these wonderful people talk about leadership and what we should be in this world. And also what is with this is Free the Children, and it's an international charity to help children with their feed needs if they need to have food at all. And Free the Children made over $5 million and had over 150,000 volunteer hours, which is absolutely incredible. During We Day, we learn about leadership, like as I said before, and we listen to people like Molly Burke, Demi Lovato, and all these wonderful people that really inspire all of us.
Hello, I'm Lauren Sterloxen, and October was a very busy month for us. Not only did we go to We Day, but we went on an STLF tour, which is put on by Students Today Leaders Forever, and it's a paid-forward tour for middle school children, and we took 48 student leadership members between the grades of 7th and 8th grade, and an interesting fact about us is we were the first middle school tour, and we were also the 500th middle school tour 7 years later, and we work with organizations, and we do different projects every year. And one project that we stay with, though, is Feed My Starving Children, and that helps kids in poverty in Africa. And We're Better Together is a big slogan for us while we're in our student leadership for the STLF tour. And it just teaches us how one person can make an impact, but when we all work together, we can make a huge impact.
Hello, my name is Eve Hansen, and on November 25th and the 26th, we took our 8th grade student leadership members to Fill the Dome. If you don't know what Fill the Dome is, it's a food drive paired with the Great Plains Food Bank, and they just try to collect as much non-perishable food as possible, and they fill the Fargo Dome with it. And actually, our whole school was involved with it, and we collected so much. In fact, 5 out of the 7 years, we have been the most donated middle school, and that's a great honor. And we just arrived there, and I think the best part of it is just looking at all of that food and how generous our community has really been. And we sit through the press conference, and then we help package some of the food. It's just been a really great experience every year.
Hi, my name is Lauren Osley, and I'm here to talk to you about Operation Stocking Stuffer. It was this December, and what it was is we brought gently used items and toys for kids in need in our community that might not get a Christmas present. And we were nervous because it was a few weeks after Fill the Dome, and we were nervous about the turnout, but we didn't have to worry because we had an amazing turnout. We had roughly 700 toys, and it was awesome. So, and it had an amazing difference, and I was just really thankful for it.
I'm Charles Bennington, and I'm here to talk to you about Kindness Week and also Teacher Appreciation. And we just got done with Kindness Week last week, and to start out the week, we had the Stephanie Getz Foundation showing through our school with the I'm Loved stickers on every single locker in the school. And then also throughout the school, we had the 100 Ways to Be Kind, which is on the left there you can see. And we really just try to challenge the students to be kind throughout the week, and hopefully that would lead on for the rest of the year and through life. And then next up, we have Teacher Appreciation in a couple of weeks. And what we do is we have a secret student leadership member for every teacher in the school, and they'll just kind of spoil them throughout the week with little gifts and presents to show our appreciation for them and teaching us throughout our middle school years. And then on Friday, we do a room service which will be the teachers will call down to the concession stand and will bring up whatever they want. So it's just to show appreciation for all that they've done and all that they've given to make them feel happier.
I'm Helen Wargo, and for years, the American Cancer Society founded the Daffodil Days, where they shipped in daffodils all over the country, and we sold them at schools to raise awareness and money for cancer patients. Unfortunately, this year they decided to stop funding the project, but we decided to keep the spirit alive by starting our own sort of Daisy Days, where we make paper flowers, and we're teaching all of student leadership how to make them, and we're just going to sell them at our concession stand and donate the money to the American Cancer Society.
Coming up in 2 months, on April 28th and 29th, we're having the Student Leadership Conference in Bismarck. This is a marvelous experience for everybody. It's a great way to learn new leadership skills, and we listen to a lot of motivational speakers, and we get to experience so much great stuff. And almost every school has a delegate that runs for state office, and that's really fun to listen to everybody's speeches. And this isn't just a 7th or 8th grade trip. This is a 6th, 7th, and 8th grade student leadership trip, so anybody can sign up for it. And we'd like to give a big thank you to Dr. Schatz, because last year we did not have the privilege of going, and he helped us get that experience back this year. So thank you so much. Thank you guys so much for letting us have dinner here and share the great things that we've done and accomplished at our school. We have been so blessed as a leadership organization to share with you and experience the great opportunities that we've gotten to have. So thank you so much.
And that young lady is going to be our representative for our state conference this year, so I think we have a pretty good shot. And I saw you guys nodding with Teacher Appreciation Week. Maybe we can hook you up with a School Board Appreciation Week, too. But seriously, though, we would truly love to say thank you for everything that you guys do. And Brad, thank you for giving our students opportunities like this, because just looking through our mission statement, academic is only said once, and the rest is about being a community person and being a sound character person. And I'm going to get a little choked up because these kids are great, but that's what these guys do, and they make our life easy, and they make our community look really good. So thank you for giving us that opportunity. Thanks.
Thank you very much for taking the time to come and talk to us and tell us what you've been doing. A lot of really exciting things, and sitting and having dinner with us. I certainly enjoyed visiting with the young women at my table, so thank you. Board members, does anyone have a question while these young people are still here or there? Keep up the good work. Enjoy your conference in Bismarck. Some of us remember the request when you guys wanted to go, and I'm really glad that it's worked out for you. So, thank you. Yes, Dr. Schatz wants to say
Just
something.
one quick
I have
comment.
to let him talk.
And one of the things that I'm always watching when I go out into our schools is our students. And I walk in and I think, what are the kids like today? And how are they doing? And it's so inspirational when you walk into the schools to see students like this. And we're in good shape in our community with our students. Our high school students, our middle school students are more engaged in our community than ever before. They're doing all sorts of great things, and when you see groups of students like this that are providing that leadership, it just reaffirms the mission of what we do every day and the reason why we exist as a school district, not only for the academic side, but for the betterment of our community. And so I just want to say thank you for all the nice work that you do and for representing yourselves so well. So thank you.
It's okay if you guys leave now, too. I mean, you're more than welcome to watch us in action as well, but might not. You were the highlight of the meeting, so thank you. So our next item is recognition of the audience. There was no one signed up when I brought in the sheet. So I think unless there's someone who doesn't know the protocol and wishes to speak to the board, doesn't look like it. Okay, thank you. Staff reports, David wasn't able to be here tonight. It's parent-teacher conferences. So we move on to administrative policy updates. Dr. Schatz.
Just wanted to bring to your attention one policy that we've been working on. It's a fundraising policy, AP 7105. What I had staff do was go back and look at the policy, see if it truly reflected what we currently are doing in the area of fundraising. So we made some minor changes to it, but I thought it was something we should bring to you since it has been something that has been discussed in past years about how much fundraising we should be doing, types of fundraising, those types of things. But we strengthened the language a little bit in, rather than saying in that first grouping of things that we would prohibit, from saying discourages to actually taking a stand and saying we prohibit these types of things. And there were a few other things where we just cleaned it up in the policy to truly reflect what we're currently doing. So I've presented that to you just for your information, and if you had any questions, I would be more than happy to try to answer those for you at this time.
Rick?
Just when I read through this the first time and I looked at the comparison, so what does this allow for? I mean, I'm thinking about all the different, sales that the students were, took part in, and the door-to-door, and I see this, basically prohibits any door-to-door solicitation, and so what, I'm just trying to wrap my head around, what does it provide for? What can they do?
Right. Well, it really does provide for a pretty minimal amount of fundraising type activities. So if they do something with fundraising, and particularly through our PTAs is where we see a lot of this activity, is if they're going to have items that they're going to sell, we're just saying you can't do it door to door. You're going to have to find other ways to do it. Family members, organizing some kind of a way to have that done. We really don't want young children going up to doors and knocking on doors. And we're trying to get our arms around that a little bit. So we feel that we fund most of our activities adequately. And a lot of times it comes down to the need versus want kinds of things. And so we really are trying to discourage a lot of fundraising. But again, basically the main thing is keeping it from being that on the street, door-to-door type fundraising activities. And of course, nutrition policies that we have now. So are we really following that? And the items that they're selling when they sell things, does it really align with that? It's kind of a difficult thing sometimes to manage. And we've asked our principals to do a better job with that too, to be more involved with that process. So that's where we're at with what we're doing.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you very much for the update. Consent, any other, Brock?
Nothing at this time.
Dr. Gross?
Nothing at this time.
Dr. Schatz? No? Okay, thank you. Consent agenda? Jim? Please. Yes, we may.
Okay.
Robin?
Pulling off which item?
The bid for Roosevelt.
Okay, I move approval of the consent agenda with the removal of the bid award.
Motion and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Same sign. Thank you. So now we will discuss the award of bids. Jim?
Yeah, I certainly am not opposed to the recommendation here, but I wanted to understand, obviously something's not quite ready to go on the automatic temperature control. Can you expand upon that for us a little bit?
Members of the board, Jim, certainly. The concern that was raised today at the bid opening on the automatic temperature control is the low bidder in this case, if they put in their system, what it would do is in the facility of Roosevelt, it would have two platforms in play for monitoring controls there. which would require our team to not have one consistent system when they're in there working on that or even doing it from this location. The second bidder has one system. It's the system that's currently in place there. It's a Siemens system. Everything would be on one platform and allow for consistency of application in that regard. What we are doing is trying to do our due diligence in working with the low bidder to find out if they are awarded the bid and put their system in, there would be one air handler in one section of the building that would have this separate platform. We're trying to inquire, or we are inquiring, what would the cost be to convert that air handler and that portion to the same system? And if that cost is less than $16,000, which is the difference in the two bids, then we would come and recommend that we would move forward in that regard. Until we know the answer to that, we just don't feel like we can provide you with a quality recommendation because as it sits today, we're considering accepting the higher of the two bids for compatibility, consistency, and one consistent platform in the building. But we're trying to do more homework on that regard before we bring it back to you. And I have asked Anne-Marie to put that on our special meeting Friday, as we're going to be meeting on the other final award at that time.
John?
Madam President, members of the board, Brock, was the bid request specific enough to rule out this, these two directions, or was the bidding package and the specs that loosely presented, that not loosely, but it apparently allowed for this?
Members of the board, John, I would say the bid spec is very specific about being able to perform the functions of the existing system, which is a Siemens system in that facility, or a comparable, something that is comparable. The issue in this regard is that one of the air handlers that's currently there is not being replaced. It would continue to function as is, so you'd have a separate standalone air handler for that portion of that facility. These two companies have bid on each one of these and know exactly what the specs are, certainly have met with the specs. We've met with both companies to talk them through this exact question, and this is the first time in all of them that the acceptance of the low bid would provide for two platforms in one building, and that's why we're having additional review.
Jim?
Yeah, I'd like to move that we approve the bid for Roosevelt Elementary for HVAC for the electrical, mechanical testing and balance for a total base bid of $1,446,521, along with alternate 1, alternate 3, and alternate 5 as delineated in memo number 96.
John?
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? In that case, all those in favor of accepting the recommendation as stated, please say aye.
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 Thank you. Any opposed, same sign? Thank you. One more school down. Thank you very much. The business section, resolution for public sale of bonds. Jim?
As you may recall, at our December meeting, we actually authorized the district to proceed to put together this bond sale that ultimately, up to the amount indicated of $27,730,000, would be put into the marketplace, assuming we get a good bid back in, to be utilized to fund our HVAC upgrades to our 6 buildings, as well as the construction and outfitting costs of our new elementary school. And of course, those bids are still coming to us. But part of the process of being able to issue the bonds was first to notify the public of our intent to do so, which was done by our administrative team. And that opened up a 60-day window, which is referred to as a protest period. As per page 2 of your memo, our business manager is certifying to us today that no protests were filed during that 60-day time period. So the next step in this process is for us to now adopt a resolution determining that no protests were actually filed. And to put this in front of us, I'd like to make a motion, but I am going to add 2 words to the recommended language you see on the bottom of your memo. And those words are up to, which would be inserted in between the number 27,730,000 and the word of right before it. So my motion is to adopt the resolution determining that no protests were filed and adopt a resolution providing for the public sale of up to 27,730,000 of limited tax school building bonds, Series 2014.
Rick?
Second?
Thank you. Discussion. Chris?
Get this to work. I'd like to divide the question if we could. I don't know if that would have to be an amendment to Jim's motion or if it could be independent, because there's 2 issues here. One is approving that there was no protest. The second one is approving the resolution to provide the sale of the bonds. I'd like those to be separated if we could. Parliamentarian, can I divide the motion or divide the question after a motion's been made? Just a little slow on the draw. Well, there's 2. We need to approve the resolution determining that no protests were filed, and then we also need to adopt the resolution providing the sale of the bonds. So two separate issues.
Microphone?
To approve that there were no protests filed?
Well, adopt the resolution that there were no protests.
So while she's looking it up, what is your reason for wanting to?
Well, I don't think we need to have a discussion about that. It just, there were no protests, period, so we can kind of move that out of the way. But I think the other one merits discussion.
Do you have a?
She can ask to divide the question. It needs a second, and it's not debatable.
Second?
Okay. In that case, we are voting about whether to separate the motion as Chris requested and Rick seconded. We're not with no discussion. So all those in favor of separating the topics, please say aye.
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 Maybe we should have a roll call, Anne Marie, just to be sure.
Nelson? Nelson?
Aye.
Papat? No, he's absent, sorry. Steen?
Yes.
Strand?
Yes.
Wallman?
Yes.
Boyd?
Yes.
Johnson?
No.
Myers?
No.
Goldenberg?
No. Motion passes. So let's then take the first part of the motion. Do we need new motions then, Anne Marie? If we've divided it, we just go, okay. So let's take the first part of the motion, which is to adopt the resolution determining that no protests were filed. Let's do a roll call on this too, Anne Marie, please.
Excuse me, point
Oh.
of information. So if we vote yes on this, are we merely approving the fact that no protests were filed?
Right.
Because it says adopt the resolution.
Brock, do you want to clarify this from a procedural, please?
You know, it's a matter of requirement to issue bonds. So in this case, I would view the language in those interchangeable to your question, Paul, that you have to have official board action simply adopting the resolution, or I guess stating there were no protests filed and we as an elected body acknowledge that by board action. So by the way the bond issues work, I would see them as interchangeable.
Or wouldn't you see them also as not interchangeable, but it's really one item? In fact, the language perhaps should have said, adopt the resolution providing for public sale of 27,730 limited tax school and so on, considering that there were no protests. I mean, it's not like we have to say, well, we've approved the fact that there were no protests, which is kind of what we're doing when we divide the motion, isn't it?
Chris?
The way it's written has led me to feel that they're separate, and if I'm wrong about that, if it's all one motion, we can go back to discussing the whole thing. It just seemed to me that we could get that part out of the way.
Well, it seems to me.
It's passed, so.
It's fine. I mean, if there's no disagreement regarding the fact that there were no protests, which there were no protests, I think as long as we pass both pieces and it's been separated, let's separate and pass one piece and go on to the discussion for the second piece. Brock, there's no stipulation that they need to be passed in one-worded motion as long as we pass both pieces of this, correct?
Madam President, members of the board, not that I am aware of, they generally arrive together in unison because one is a simple acknowledgement of fact and the other one is now we're ready to proceed to the next step of notice of bond sale.
They are separate resolutions in your packets.
Okay. So, Chris, did you have something else?
Are we on to the second topic?
No, we have to vote on the first, just to adopt there were no, yes,
I
go
move
ahead.
that we adopt that there were no protests to the sale of bonds up to $27,730,000.
Okay, we don't actually need another motion, we just need to vote on the one that's on the table, which is what you just stated. So, all those in favor of accepting the fact that there were no protests, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. Okay, now we're to
President
the.
Goldenberg, I'd like to call the roll for both of these because Mary Ann Smith does need a roll call vote for the processing of this, and I'm not sure if it's either one, so I'd like to have a.
Okay,
do it
no
for the
problem.
record.
Sorry, I just
Thank you.
figured that one was going to be. Go ahead.
Steen,
Yes.
Strand,
Yes.
Wallman,
Yes.
Boyd,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Myers,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Goldenberg.
Yes. Okay, thank you. So now we are at the second part of the motion, which is to adopt the resolution providing for the public sale. Any discussion? John?
Madam President, members of the board, I'm just curious if we succeed at, or if the state modifies their loan pool fund that we're applying for the construction loans of up to $15 million at 1%, if I recall. I'm curious, would that then mean we don't sell these bonds? Or and I don't know the timeline of that, should that happen, or if that happens, I don't think we can pay these down in advance. So if somebody could help me understand that.
Brock and then Jim?
Members of the board, John, what we're doing by this resolution is simply giving us the maximum flexibility, should we need it, given what we know today. We have filled out the application based on your action, or we'll finalize that based on your approval of the minutes tonight to proceed with the state school loan construction program. If we are successful in that regard, we will sell only the balance of what we need for bonds. This simply, once you pass your resolution, you can always issue or sell bonds for less. However, once you pass your resolution, you can't sell for more should you not get the state loan construction or not infuse cash or however you do that. So this is simply providing you with the maximum flexibility, and it will be netted out once we get the other pieces of the financing puzzle finalized.
Jim?
I was just going to clarify that same thing, so.
Okay. Chris?
I don't think Jim meant to put the cart before the horse, but as a board, we haven't decided that we would use this to fund HVAC or a new elementary school. We've talked about, in planning, we've talked about many options for that. So this bond wouldn't, it hasn't been decided, and you said specifically that that's what it would be for, and I don't think as a board we've decided how we would finance those projects, which leads me to my second question, which is, Brock, if we went ahead and did this, and it came time to start paying back loans, my understanding is we would use the building fund and then we would go to the public and ask them, or we would be forced to use the building authority and pay out of the general fund. Is that right?
Members of the board, Chris, when you're talking about paying back loans, are you specifically talking about paying back these bond issues? These bond issues, this is, as you read it, a resolution to provide for a sale of bonds of the building fund bonds. So the revenues generated by the building fund would pay these specific bonds. So this has been done this way with our financial advisor who has said to us, here's the maximum allowable in your existing cash flow of the building fund. Anything we do beyond this would require the piece that you're talking about, whether there would be additional action to the building fund or something through the building authority. But in the current makeup of the capital projects and the bond sales we have, the building fund can service up to $27.7 million.
Just really wanted that clarified. Thanks.
Does anyone else have any questions? Okay, thank you. Well, in that case, Anne Marie needs to call the roll again for this portion of the motion.
Strand?
Yes.
Wallman? Yes. Boyd?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Myers?
Yes.
Nelson?
Yes.
Steen? Yes. Goldenberg?
Yes. Thank you. Okay, where are we? Creation of the virtual CTE. I'm going to let Dr. Schatz give you a little more information about this, but most of it was self-explanatory in the memo that you received. But I wanted to point out that not only are we participatory in this, and I'll let Dr. Schatz give you a little more information, we are required as a school district to appoint one of our board members to the governing body of this organization. And I discussed with Jim, he has the experience serving on these types of boards before and thought his expertise would be most helpful in this regard to serve on this board for us, and he agreed to do so. So that is why I am recommending him as our representative at this time. Dr. Schatz, do you want to give them a little more information about this? Thank you.
Thank you. Tonight, what we're presenting to you is the creation of a virtual center, CTE center, in cooperation with Northern Cass and West Fargo. I have spoken to you about this before with regard to the process that we've been going through. There was monies appropriated by the legislature last year to assist with the development of this, and so there are some offsetting costs where we reap a benefit from doing this. We're pretty excited about it. It's actually something that I think will be viewed favorably. We're going to collaborate with both districts, in particular with our CTE director position with West Fargo, and be developing that whole process. But I'm going to ask Dr. Gross at this time to give you an overview of some of the highlights of this program and grant process that we're going through. It has been approved already by the Department of Career and Technical Education in Bismarck. So in order to proceed and move forward, we're the last district to bring it to the board, so we need board action tonight to move forward with it. So Dr. Gross, if you could fill in all the details.
Certainly, thank you very much. Like Dr. Schatz said, we've been working for the past many months on this partnership with these two other districts. And what we're looking for is to enhance our opportunities for our own students and students throughout our community in the area of career and tech education, where down the road we will begin to offer, as the advisory team puts that together, either online or hybrid type coursework so that students can explore areas that may not currently be in our program of study. It may allow students from one of our neighboring communities to come and join in our classrooms where we maybe have some of those courseworks or those offerings that they do not have. And down the road, if West Fargo or Northern Cass happen to have coursework that we would not have in our plan of study, our students too could take advantage of that. To help with the planning process, we as a team actually surveyed all of our students in all three of the districts, the seniors, and asked them really, as you look back at your educational career, what are some of the courses, what are some of the offerings that you would like to take advantage of or would have liked to take advantage of in the area of career and tech education? So getting some of that feedback from our students, that then will be used by the planning team as we move forward. The governance for this cooperative, like Dr. Schatz indicated, would be from a board member from each of the different school districts, but then there would be an advisory team that would be working. Most likely that would be myself. It may be Alan Bergrad from West Fargo, and then someone from Northern Cass who would be assigned, and then the director once that individual was hired. And it would be working through the data that we have from all of our districts, making recommendations then to that board for final approval. And as we continue to grow and develop, I really see this as being able to provide additional opportunities for our students through either seat-based, online, or hybrid-type coursework.
Rick? Thank you.
Just one question, as I was reading through this, it wasn't clear to me, and maybe it's in here and I just missed it. These different positions, who is actually the employer for these individuals?
The individuals that are listed, or the positions that are listed on the memo, are our current staff. What we would do is, by opening this up to the virtual center and allowing students from the other districts to come and take advantage of that, that becomes part of the center. They still remain our employees, but there is a reimbursement through the grant, if you so approve that tonight, that we could request.
So we're gonna bring in more kids into the program, and then how are we gonna serve these additional children, students with additional staff? Or do we have enough staff on board to handle all the additional students that we expect to provide services to, or how is that gonna work?
As we looked at our class ratios last year in these courses, there would be opportunity for additional students to be added without us needing to add additional sections. But as we talk through this process with our partners, we would certainly give first priority to the students of that district who then would have that course. So for example, in the courses of our health careers, welding, and so on, Fargo Public School students would have first priority. Then what space would be left available would be made available to the other districts.
I'm not sure, you suggesting then that we're not going to hire any additional staff?
We would not hire this year under this plan additional staff. Now, down the road, as we look to add additional programs, that advisory team would make that recommendation to that board who would run the virtual center, and only after that approval would we add additional staff.
And those would be the employees of FPS?
It could be employees of Fargo Public Schools if the program was housed here. It could be employees of the West Fargo district if that was housed in that district, or even Northern Cass. Or if it was a virtual piece that was an online component, it would be where that facilitator would be employed.
Robin, and then you look like you want.
Go ahead.
Oh, this is good. Keep going.
Dr. Schatz looked like he had a response.
No, go ahead.
You first. Ladies first.
I think it's a great concept, and I would almost view this as piloting some of these virtual classes, and I think it's a great way to test how this works. My question is, in the FPS membership fee, how was that determined? Was that a per pupil for the entire school, or trend data on who participates in CTE?
It was based on the enrollment of the different high schools.
So total enrollment?
Total enrollment.
Okay.
Okay, I was just going to say, this is really out-of-the-box thinking with what we're doing here, and so it's a new concept. There are other virtual centers in the state that are in operation, and they're working well. Really what it is it's taking the strength of all three districts and trying to make the CTE programs even stronger. So each school is still going to be housing programs and their programs, but there's now the opportunity for the collaboration with the other districts to provide additional seats, if you will, additional spaces, and or different ways of doing things virtually. And so this is just a start. Any school district in the southeast part of the state here could join into this into the future too. This is just a start with the first three districts. And so I think the momentum will grow as we get this going. We're looking at things in aviation, we're looking at things in law enforcement, those types of more modern, more interesting types of courses that we haven't offered before that possibly could be coming down the road. Also, this has been very closely tied to the economic development corps of the different entities, looking at job, what the employers out there are looking at for what we need to be concerned about with our students and what they're learning and the skills that they have. So This has been a very, even the United Way has been involved to some extent with this, so, at the table with the discussions. So this here is just the very, very beginning. We were lucky that the legislature had put some money into this so that it actually is a cost benefit to us overall with even our current programs. And so, and again, that first step to doing that collaboration with a neighboring district in a program. So I think it's very, very positive.
John?
Madam President, members of the board, I don't know the boundaries of Northern Cass. Are there any students in the county not included in this program? And how are they being approached or not? Or
Well, each school district has its own boundary area, its own attendance area. Central Cass, Kindred, they were also at the table. They just didn't feel at this time they were ready to pursue this. Northern Cass felt that they were ready. And so as we move forward, if Central Cass, if Kindred, and some of the other districts within the Cass County here want to get involved, they certainly can. And but they were all given the opportunity to at least take a look at this. We felt we wanted to get it off the ground this year, so the three districts felt, let's take this, run with it, and get it going. And that's where really where we're at. But I see it growing in the future for us.
Madam President, if I might continue, I don't want to assume this, but I'm guessing the board appointee is an annually renewed appointment?
Yeah.
Just
I
clarifying.
didn't commit Jim for life. I asked him to serve for the first year and possibly two while this is getting started, but it will certainly be up to the next president, and this will go on our ever-growing list of additional board responsibilities, so. Yes, and then Robin.
Just one clarifying fact on that. This is just like any other thing that is brand new. It'll be developed. And so Jim's work as a representative of our board will be working with the new director, the advisory committee, to help build what it's going to be. And then we'll have all those procedural things in place. So I don't see it as a lifelong commitment, if you will, but something that as we appoint each year to different committees and things like that, that kind of appointment, so. Okay.
We wanted it to be someone who was definitely going to be on the board for the next year. Robin?
I think I understand Rick's questions and his train of thought. I guess my advice to administration is not to bring us down a path to have us be the administrators to manage these personnel and the benefits and administrative costs. So keep that in mind, I guess would be my advice as you proceed.
Rick, and then Chris?
Just to follow up on what Robin said, and I go back to, all the different things that we do as a district. We've got all the costs, and that shows up as our cost per student. And all the offsets tend to not really offset those costs. They show up somewhere else in the accounting that the state provides throughout the state. And so when we bring on these different staff, even though we're getting funds for those and getting funded for some of those staff, the costs show up in our costs. And we've talked about this for a number of years, and we can explain it internally, but it's really difficult to explain it to the public when they look at what our cost per student is, and it shows, right, here's the number, and we're like on the high side, and we can do all the explaining we want about, well, we're getting funds for this, and it's being paid for this way, and it's being paid for this way, but nobody cares. They look at the cost per student, and I'm just concerned about the growth of the program if it's not truly for our students, regardless of how we get funded or repaid for that cost, and how that shows up in that perception that the public has with regard to why are the Fargo Public School costs so high compared to other districts. So you're right, Robin, that's exactly what I was getting at. I'm just concerned about that going forward. And it's a great program. I mean, I'm all for the program. It's how it's administered and how it's accounted for, unfortunately, and how it's reported that I'm a little bit concerned about.
Chris?
Mine wasn't so much an accounting perspective, but my question is, if there's a cost benefit to us now, a monetary one, is there a cost in what we're providing? Are our staff going to be spread more thin? Are we going to have less of a focus? I'm all in favor of this. I think 21st century skills include being college and career ready. And for us to be focusing on that is absolutely the right way to go, in my opinion. I think it's great. I just want to make sure that we're not spreading the peanut butter so thin that the kids can't eat. You know what I mean? Those core things that we need to be focusing resources on aren't going to go by the wayside, because it is a great idea and I'm excited about it.
Go ahead.
With this program or any of the programs that we have in the Fargo Public Schools, we would continue to use the same ratios that we have. We would not want to inundate this set of coursework with extra students. We'd want to make sure we could provide that high quality of education under those same ratios.
This one's for Jim. Is the Southeast Education Cooperative involved in this at all? Is there a component here?
No, I don't believe so, but you know just as much about this cooperative as I do. And the guy to my left may think that the governing board is going to help shape this only after he helps shape the people going to the governing board.
Maybe the question was for Jim.
There is no SEEK involvement in this. We did that independent to that, and that is through because this is through the Department of Career and Technical Education, okay, which is a different entity. And so Kyle Davidson certainly helped with the grant writing process, has been interested in the whole thing, and his role with SEEK is to help coordinate with the other schools within the SEEC and to create that interest to be part of something like this. So there is a collaborative environment, but it is separate from SEEK.
Robin?
I move to approve the development of CTE Virtual Center and with the West Fargo and Northern Cass School Districts, and appoint Jim Johnson to serve as the FPS board representative on the governing board for the center.
Rick?
Second.
Thank you. Oh, thank you, Linda. Rick beat you to it. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Thank you. Any opposed, same sign? Well, thank you, and thank you very much, Jim, for being our first guinea pig in this endeavor. We appreciate it and look forward to hearing what transpires. And Dr. Gross, I'm sure you'll keep us up to date as things develop, so thank you very much. I also, we often get asked, how come we never do things with other districts? And I think this is a great addition to some of the things that we're doing behind the scenes that people don't hear about, but that we are working with other districts and trying to do the best we can for our students all across the region. So I'm looking forward to hearing more about that. So now we're on to board reports. And this is the time of year where Dr. Schatz gets nervous. No, I'm just teasing. But you all received, thanks to Anne Marie, this summative evaluation form in online form, but I am also handing it out to you in hard copy. Please have it back to Anne Marie by Friday. You can do it online or you can fill it in by hand as long as she has it in her hot little hands by Friday. And then we are at committee reports. Chris.
The negotiations committee needs you, and you, and you, and you, because we're planning our CRG with the FEA and ABCD. Yeah, and it's acronym day. Well, we'd really like some volunteers, otherwise Diane and I will appoint folks and get that going. We'd like to look at a new matrix or something that's gonna satisfy the whole matrix and not be weighted in certain areas. So we talked about that during the last negotiation session. So if you have an interest in doing it, please volunteer. If not, and we are hoping to hear from David to find out exactly what the time commitment will be, what FEA is hoping to spend on it, and then we'll have a better sense of what we're up for. That's it.
Thank you. Paul?
The Fargo Public Schools Foundation is getting set to do its second now annual alumni and friends breakfast coming up. I don't have all the details with me right now, and it's a ways away, so
I
keep
put
us
it on my
posted.
president's report, the date.
Well, then, there it is. And that should do it for me.
Thank you. Robin?
Communications Committee, next meeting will be March 13th. There was no need to meet this month, we felt. So at that meeting, we'll be discussing how your visits with students went. Rick and John, did you have a chance to get to your high school yet? Okay. There's your deadline. We want to gather feedback and then try to lay the groundwork for next year's student engagement. So please be ready to share your thoughts with the Communications Committee on that. April 20 is a Native American Commission appointee for the school district. Hold the date of April 26th at noon. There's a powwow. More details to follow, but those should great cultural experience and just get to spend some time with our Native students as well. That's it.
Thank you. Jim?
A couple of things. I did meet with the Jefferson PTA leadership team, as I know most of you have been doing, and that went pretty well. Yesterday afternoon, I had an opportunity to meet with the FEA building leadership team, and I think that went pretty well. Just they had a few questions in terms of the effect of the mill levy vote and clarification on whether that impacts buildings or operations. Tomorrow, we will be meeting with the Park and City Commission folks, so hopefully everybody can make it to that. GAC will be meeting at our regular time in March, which will be March 19th at 7:30 in the morning, and an agenda will be forthcoming. And for those of you that have already done so, I thank you. For those of you that maybe haven't, again, as you're contacting area legislators, we would like to kind of keep a running chart of what we uncover in those conversations. And it occurred to me, your calls might be going about like mine are. Some people were tickled pink to get together. Others apparently don't have digits to be able to call back on their phone. So if you've reached out to somebody and not heard back from them, and you finally said, well, they're obviously not concerned, they're not calling me back, report that into Mary Ann too, so we know that, you know, we tried to connect with Jim, but never did manage to have a connection, just so we can have a kind of a running total of what we've got going. So as we start to look at future issues that we might want to reach out to our area legislators, we'll really have some kind of groundwork already put in place as to how to be most effective in doing that. And on behalf of GAC Committee, I want to thank you all for helping us in this endeavor.
Thank you. John?
Madam President and members of the board, I attended the HIC meeting last Thursday, and they're pretty much analyzing reports and data. Some things which kind of caught my interest last meeting were, even though we had for example, if I recall, a 1.9% rate increase, and we had a net revenue of like $389,000. Something I'm gathering kind of new to this picture is all the fees coming our way, or the fees are growing. So there's like $115,000 for Sanford contract. There's $240,000 for transitional reinsurance fee. That's $63 per member times approximately 4,000 members. So in the end, you end up with about $60,000 net. We have $300,000 being eaten up by fees that doesn't quite show up in the rate increase that we see. And just to update you about the general status, at this point in time, the ending fund balance it's rather consistent. It's been higher by as much as 1.2 million more than this, but the ending balance for that overall fund is 8.7 million. That's it.
Sure, go ahead.
Quick question, John. How receptive do you feel that group is to a high deductible HSA?
Robin, members of the board, I think it seemed that's the path they were on for a while. And my sense is that when we got the lower increase last year than anticipated, it was less pressing. But I don't think that they have their blinders on about what's coming down the road. You know, so that's my sense of it, is that they're absolutely, I don't know that, because they've had 10 to 12% increases annually. And this year, whether it's an anomaly or not, I don't know, but, so I don't think it's off the table at all.
Thank you. Rick?
Thank you. Planning has not met since our last board meeting. However, we do have a planning meeting scheduled for March 4th, immediately following governance, or 8:30, whichever comes first. And on the agenda, we have basically just kind of an overview of the HVAC upgrades, and then looking at the Ed Clapp Elementary financing options together. Myron Knudsen is going to join planning and talk about where the state fund is at, if we should be looking at some interim financing, like construction type financing, short-term financing, that type of thing. So we're going to have a meeting with him. He mentioned the HVAC project update. We're going to do our quarterly budget review at that meeting. And we're also going to, John wanted on the agenda, so we're going to look at talk a little bit about our policy and practice of fencing our own school properties a little bit. Us at our own, so. On March 4th, everyone is welcome to join us.
Thank you. Linda, do you have anything from the warmer clime?
Nothing to report, thank you.
Okay, thank you. President's report, I will pass around. I attended at my last mill levy presentation was at the city PTA, and everyone in the room had already heard the story at their individual PTAs. So it was more of a question-answer thing. I found it interesting that after people have heard it once and gone home and thought about it, they have different questions and so on. But it was a good exchange. I also attended the first of a two-part program called Rethink Mental Health. The reason I mention this is because I went sort of twofold, partly as the Fargo Cass public health piece, but also as a school representing or interested party from the schools. This is a broad group of healthcare professionals discussing healthcare or mental health care and some of the opportunities that we have in the surrounding area to help adults and children with potential mental illness, as well as not just treating in a crisis, but also prevention. And I think this is a really important piece for us as a school district because, there's a lot more focus globally on mental health services and how as a school district we may be the first line of defense in helping recognize some of these things in our kids. And so I think it's important that we keep updated on this. So this was a more general session. The next one there will be some policymakers at, and I think what came out of last week is some pieces that requests and ideas that will be addressed with policymakers about what might be able to happen at the state level that might assist in this overall piece. So I'll keep you posted. It's a very interesting, worthwhile piece, and I'm certainly learning a lot. There are multiple dates on here. Tomorrow, of course, is as Jim mentioned, the school parks. We have one more special meeting on Friday, governance on the 4th prior to planning, the special election, and we polled board members, and due to the need to canvass after the special election, we will hold our meeting on Monday, March the 17th, rather than Tuesday, the 18th. So this is a different day as well as a different week for us. So we're getting that out to everyone. So please make a note on your calendars, and I appreciate the fact that you've been flexible this month or for March to adjust our meetings. What else? I guess the rest of it, I put down there the FPS alumni breakfast. You guys probably all got a postcard about that. Paul, you'll be pleased to know I ordered my ticket today. And I also wanted you to get on your calendars that May 16th is the date for the citywide PTA luncheon. So I know it's hard to even make arrangements to go if you don't find out about it early enough. So I put that on there too. And then, of course, your most important homework is to get the superintendent evaluation done and back to Anne Marie no later than Friday, please. And another reminder that the National School Boards Convention is coming up very soon. And if your plans have changed in any way about attendance, if you could take those dates into notes so that we could make adjustments accordingly before we're committed to finances that we can't get out of. And I think that's it for me. Does anybody have anything else that was missed? John?
Madam President, Rusty's birthday is the 28th. And Rachel, who I was going to say hers was 2 days ago, so if you see her, you can wish her a happy birthday.
2 days ago, the 23rd?
23rd, yeah.
Oh, Matthew's.
I think so, I think.
My
I'm-
son's birthday was the same day, so.
I'm kind of confused about that one, and I'm,
Okay. Well, our next regular meeting is on March the 11th, and that brings us to debriefing. Does anyone have anything for the good of the order? John?
Madam President, I'm just looking across and see 3 people texting.
It's called electronic, John.
See all this stuff here, all these dates, John? You gotta get on there.
Okay.
I think we should back it up, actually. You brought it up.
Anyone else? Anything else for debriefing? Well. Thank you very much. Have a good 24 hours or less. Hopefully, we'll see most of you tomorrow, and if not, on Friday at the special meeting. Thank you again, and have a nice evening. Meeting adjourned.
What's tomorrow?